The bitter wind howled through Wolfhaven village as Lysandra Nightwhisper pressed herself against the bakery's rough wooden wall, trying to become invisible. Her empty stomach cramped painfully, 3 days without proper food, but she forced herself to remain still. The last thing she needed was to draw attention from the Alpha enforcers making their rounds. Pathetic Omega filth! Someone spat as they passed, not even bothering to look at her directly. Lysandra kept her silver eyes downcast, her tangled midnight hair falling forward to hide her face. She'd learned long ago that making eye contact with higher-ranking wolves only invited trouble. In the northern territories of Valderis, your wolf determined everything. Alphas ruled, betas served, and omegas survived. Barely. Lysandra had been surviving for 23 years, ever since her parents died in the territorial wars. Without a pack's protection, without family status, she existed on scraps and seasonal labor. The other wolves could smell her omega nature. Weak, they said, worthless, and treated her accordingly. But today would be different. Today, she had a plan. The Moonrise Festival was beginning in Ironhold Citadel, the fortress where King Kalux Frostborn held court. For 1 week each year, the strict boundaries between wolf ranks supposedly dissolved. Even Omegas could enter the Citadel grounds to trade, seek work, or petition the Alpha King himself. Lysandra touched the worn leather pouch at her hip. Inside were 3 precious silver coins, her entire savings from a year of mending clothes and cleaning houses. It would be enough to buy medicine for Zephyra, her younger sister, whose lungs rattled with each breath. The healer in Wolfhaven had stopped treating them months ago when they couldn't pay, but surely someone at the festival would help. Strange, how quickly her body seemed to recover from the small injuries life dealt her. Cuts that should take days to heal disappeared overnight. Bruises faded within hours. She'd always attributed it to youth, to determination, never questioning why her healing seemed faster than others. "You're going to the Citadel?" A familiar voice made her flinch. Mordecai Ashfang emerged from the shadows, his scarred face twisted in amusement. The alpha male had tormented her for years, finding sport in reminding her of her place. "The festival is open to all wolves," Lysandra said quietly, still not meeting his gaze. "All wolves. Yes." Mordecai laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "But you barely qualify as one. When did you last shift, Omega? Can you even manage it anymore?" Heat flooded her cheeks. She hadn't been able to shift in 2 years. Malnutrition and stress had weakened her wolf to near silence. It was the ultimate shame for their kind. "Leave her alone, Mordecai," an elderly beta woman called from across the square. "The king's decree protects all during festival week." "The king?" Mordecai scoffed, but stepped back. "Our illustrious ruler who refuses to take a mate, refuses to produce heirs. Some say his wolf went dormant when he was barely 20, that he can't feel the mate bond at all." He looked back at Lysandra with cruel amusement. "Perhaps you should petition him, little Omega, a broken wolf for a frozen one." The other wolves in the square laughed, the sound following Lysandra as she hurried away toward the mountain path. Let them laugh. She wasn't going to petition the king. She just needed to find one healer willing to trade medicine for silver. The journey to Ironhold Citadel took 6 hours on foot. By the time Lysandra reached the fortress gates, her worn boots had split completely, leaving her feet bleeding. Yet as she paused to check the damage, she noticed the cuts were already closing, the pain fading faster than it should. She shook her head. Exhaustion was making her imagine things. The massive structure rose before her like a mountain of black stone and iron, impossibly vast, impossibly cold. Alpha guards flanked the entrance, their eyes tracking every movement. When Lysandra approached, One of them actually recoiled. Omega, he announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. Omega, entering the grounds. Heads turned, conversation stopped. Lysandra felt the weight of dozens of stares as wolves of every rank took notice. Some curious, most disgusted, all judging. She pulled her patched cloak tighter and hurried through the gates. The festival sprawled across the citadel's outer courtyard in a riot of color and noise. Merchants hawked their wares, musicians played, and wolves in their animal forms raced through designated runs. The scent of roasted meat made her stomach clench painfully, but she ignored it, searching for the healers' tents. That's when she felt it. A pull so sudden and violent it nearly brought her to her knees. Her wolf, silent for so long, suddenly surged to life within her. Not weak or quiet anymore, but raging, desperate, clawing at her insides with a need she'd never experienced. Her vision sharpened, her hearing intensified, and every instinct screamed one word: mate. No, Lysandra whispered, horror flooding through her. Not here. Not now. The crowd parted suddenly, wolves dropping to their knees in submission. Through the sea of bowed heads she saw him. King Caelux Frostborn stood on the citadel's grand balcony, addressing the festival crowd. Even from this distance his presence was overwhelming. Tall, broad-shouldered, with hair so pale it seemed made of moonlight itself. Power radiated from him in waves that made the air feel heavy. At 50 years of age, he carried the weight of 30 years without his wolf's full presence, yet remained the strongest alpha anyone had seen. But it was his eyes that trapped her. Pale as winter frost, colder than the mountain peaks, they swept across the crowd with detached authority. Until they found her. The world stopped. Lysandra saw the exact moment recognition hit him. His controlled expression cracked, those frigid eyes widening in shock. His massive frame went rigid, hands gripping the balcony's stone railing so hard she heard it crack from across the courtyard. Then his wolf's presence slammed into her like an avalanche. Where hers was desperate and yearning, his was furious, a primal rage at finding what he'd never wanted. An Omega, the lowest of the low, his mate. Find her! The king's voice boomed across the courtyard, but Lysandra was already running. She crashed through the crowd, her weak body suddenly flooded with adrenaline. Behind her she heard chaos erupting, guards shouting, wolves transforming, the king's beta, Thaddeus Ironmoon, barking orders. But loudest of all was the sound that would haunt her forever. King Caelyx's roar of fury when he realized his mate was running from him. Lysandra darted into the narrow alleys between merchant stalls, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd heard stories of wolves who rejected the mate bond, who fought against fate's choice. But she'd never heard of an Alpha King's wolf choosing an Omega. This couldn't be happening. She'd come here to save her sister, not to become entangled with the most powerful and reportedly coldest wolf in all of Valdris. A hand grabbed her arm, yanking her behind a tent. Lysandra nearly screamed before recognizing the elderly woman who'd helped her in Wolfhaven. "Selvana," Lysandra gasped. "What are you—" "Hush, child." The woman's eyes were wild with urgency. "Do you have any idea what you've just done?" The king's wolf went dormant 30 years ago, when he was barely 20. The entire kingdom believes he's cursed. "I didn't mean—" "But you woke it up," Selvana interrupted. "An Omega who awakened the Alpha King's wolf. This will either be a miracle or a massacre." Heavy footsteps thundered closer. The king's guard. "They'll find you," Selvana whispered. "His wolf won't rest until it claims what it considers his. But listen carefully. There's something you need to know about why his wolf went dormant." The tent beside them exploded into shreds as a massive white wolf burst through. Lysandra's breath caught. She'd never seen a wolf so large, so magnificent, so terrifying. Eyes like frozen lakes locked onto hers with laser focus. The Alpha King had shifted to hunt her personally, and in those predatory eyes she saw not just anger at finding an Omega mate, but something far more dangerous. Hunger. Desperate, ravenous hunger, as if his wolf had been starving for 30 years and had finally found sustenance. Lysandra's wolf whimpered in response, torn between submission and terror. The king took a step forward, and everyone in the vicinity dropped to their bellies in submission. Everyone except Lysandra, who stood frozen as death itself approached in the form of white fur and barely controlled violence. This was it. The moment that would change everything. The Alpha King who never wanted a mate had found her, and his wolf had gone completely feral. The massive white wolf's muscles coiled, ready to pounce. Lysandra's mind screamed at her to run, but her traitorous Omega nature wanted to bare her throat in submission. She did neither, frozen between instinct and terror. "Your Majesty, please." Selvana stepped forward, her aged voice steadied despite the danger. "The girl doesn't understand. She's been packless for years." The king's wolf snarled, a sound that vibrated through Lysandra's bones. His massive head swung toward the elderly woman, lips pulling back to reveal fangs as long as her fingers. That broken moment was all Lysandra needed. She bolted. Behind her came an enraged howl that shattered windows in nearby buildings. The Alpha King gave chase, his powerful form eating up the ground between them with terrifying speed. Lysandra's malnourished body screamed in protest as she pushed it beyond its limits, weaving through market stalls and leaping over barrels. She could feel him gaining, his presence like ice against her back, his fury a physical weight pressing down on her. Her wolf whined desperately, wanting to submit to their mate. But Lysandra's human mind knew better. An Alpha King would never accept an Omega mate. He would kill her for the insult to his bloodline, or worse, keep her locked away to prevent anyone from knowing his wolf had chosen so poorly. A narrow passage between two stone buildings appeared ahead. Lysandra dove for it, knowing her smaller size was her only advantage. She heard the king's wolf skid on cobblestones, too large to follow immediately. It bought her seconds at most. She emerged in the citadel's inner courtyard where hundreds of higher-ranking wolves had gathered for the festival's opening ceremony. They scattered in shock as she burst through, followed moments later by their transformed king. "Nobody move!" Thaddeus Ironmoon's voice rang out. The king's beta stood on a platform, his amber eyes calculating. "Let his majesty handle this." Lysandra wanted to scream at the injustice. Handle this? Like she was a rabid animal to be put down? She spotted a servant's entrance to the citadel proper and sprinted for it, but white fur flashed in her peripheral vision. The king had circled around, cutting off her escape. He stalked toward her slowly now, certain of victory. The crowd formed a living wall around them. No escape. His crystalline gaze held a predatory intelligence that made her knees weak. Then something unexpected happened. The king's wolf stopped just out of reach and began to shift. The transformation was mesmerizing, white fur receding, bones reshaping, until King Kalux Frostborn stood before her in human form. He wore only loose pants, his chest bare despite the mountain cold, revealing scars from countless battles. His pale hair fell past his shoulders, and those devastating eyes hadn't warmed a single degree. "Omega?" His voice was winter wind-given sound, controlled but with dangerous undertones. "You run from your king?" "I run from a wolf who wants me dead," Lysandra managed, her voice barely a whisper. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise. Dead. You think I would kill my own? He cut himself off, jaw clenching. You know nothing of what you've done. Then enlighten me, Your Majesty. The words escaped before she could stop them, years of suppressed anger giving her courage. Tell me why the great Alpha King is hunting a worthless Omega through his own citadel. Gasps echoed through the crowd. Nobody spoke to the king that way, especially not an Omega. Calyx took a step forward, and Lysandra's wolf immediately cowered inside her. His power was suffocating this close, like standing in a blizzard. 30 years, he said quietly, but his voice carried to every ear. For 30 years, since I was 20, my wolf has been dormant, nearly dead. The healers said it was dying, taking my ability to feel the mate bond with it. The kingdom needs an heir, but I couldn't feel what every wolf is born knowing. His gaze bored into hers. Then you walked through my gates, Omega, and my wolf didn't just wake, it exploded to life, screaming one word. He paused, the muscle in his jaw ticking. Mine. The crowd's shock was palpable. Lysandra felt the blood drain from her face. But I'm weak? Packless? Omega? Calyx's laugh was bitter. Yes, you're all of those things. The moon goddess has a twisted sense of humor, pairing the strongest alpha in Valdris with the weakest wolf in the territories. The words cut deeper than claws. Lysandra's eyes burned with unshed tears, but she refused to cry before these people who already saw her as nothing. Then reject me, she said, lifting her chin despite her terror. Reject the bond and let me go. The king went completely still. When he spoke, his voice had dropped to something dangerous. Reject the bond? After 30 years of feeling nothing? He moved closer, and she caught his scent. Pine forests and winter storms and something wild that made her wolf keen with longing. My wolf would tear me apart from the inside. Your Majesty, Thaddeus interrupted carefully. Perhaps we should continue this discussion privately. Silence. Calyx never looked away from Lysandra. The Omega comes with me. No. Lysandra stepped back, only to hit the wall of watching wolves. I won't be your prisoner. Prisoner? The king's pale gaze flashed. You're my mate. A mate you clearly despise. The words burst out, years of rejection and pain fueling her defiance. I won't be kept in some tower while you pretend I don't exist. Won't be your shameful secret. Her words cut off as the king moved with inhuman speed, backing her against a stone pillar. He didn't touch her, but his presence surrounded her completely. This close, she could see gold flecks in his frost-colored eyes, could feel heat radiating from his skin despite his cold reputation. Listen carefully, little Omega. His voice was soft, but somehow more terrifying for it. My wolf has been dormant for 3 decades. Now it wants to claim you here. Before everyone, consequences be damned. The only reason you're still standing unclaimed is my control. Control that is rapidly failing. Lysandra's wolf practically purred at the promise in his words, even as her human side trembled. I don't understand. No, you don't. His hand rose to hover near her face, not quite touching. You don't understand that without my wolf, I've been slowly dying. You don't understand that you've given me back something I thought lost forever. And you certainly don't understand what it means when an Alpha King's wolf chooses someone after 30 years of silence. Then tell me, she whispered. His eyes darkened, pupils dilating. It means you're not just my mate, Omega. You're my wolf's salvation, and if you run again... His voice dropped to a growl. I won't be responsible for what happens when I catch you. Before Lysandra could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. Well, well. The cursed king finally found his mate. Mordecai Ashfang pushed through the crowd, other alpha wolves flanking him. His scarred face held malicious amusement. "And what a mate she is," he continued. "Tell me, Your Majesty, how does it feel knowing your wolf chose damaged goods? She can't even shift anymore." Calyx turned slowly, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "You dare speak of my mate?" "I speak the truth." Mordecai shrugged. "She's been Omega trash in Wolfhaven for years. Weak, pathetic, probably hasn't had a proper meal in months. Your wolf must be more broken than we thought to choose." He never finished the sentence. The king's hand wrapped around Mordecai's throat before anyone could blink. The scarred alpha's feet left the ground as Calyx lifted him effortlessly, his pale eyes now glowing with an inhuman light. "You touched her." The king's voice was barely human, more wolf than man. "You tormented what is mine." Mordecai clawed at the king's grip, his face turning purple. The other alphas who'd come with him backed away rapidly, sensing death in the air. "Your Majesty," Thaddeus stepped forward cautiously. The law says I can kill anyone who threatens my mate," Calyx snarled. His fingers tightened and Mordecai's eyes bulged. "Stop!" Lysandra's voice rang out before she could think better of it. "Please, don't kill him because of me." The king's head snapped toward her, and for a moment she saw something feral in his gaze, his wolf, barely contained. Then, slowly, he released Mordecai, who collapsed, gasping. "You beg mercy for someone who tormented you?" Calyx's voice held dangerous curiosity. "Death won't change what he did," Lysandra said quietly, "and I won't have blood spilled in my name." The king studied her for a long moment, then turned back to Mordecai. "You live because my mate wishes it. But if you speak her name again, if you come within 100 yards of her, I'll tear your throat out with my teeth." His voice dropped to sub-zero temperatures. "And I'll make it last." Mordecai scrambled away, his supporters helping him flee. The crowd began to disperse, whispering frantically about what they'd witnessed. The frozen king defending an Omega, nearly killing an Alpha for insulting her. "Come," Calyx commanded, turning back to Lysandra. "We have matters to discuss." "I'm not going anywhere with you," Lysandra said, though her wolf whined in protest. "I came here for medicine, not to be claimed by a king who's ashamed of me." His gaze flashed dangerously. "Ashamed?" "You said it yourself. Strongest alpha, weakest wolf. The moon goddess's cruel joke." The words tasted bitter. "I won't be your burden to bear." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in his icy composure. "Ragnar," he called, and a massive beta appeared. "Bring the healer Sylvana to my study. Tell her to bring remedies for lung sickness." Lysandra's breath caught. "How did you—" "Your scent carries worry sickness, fear for another, and you mentioned medicine." His attention never left her. "Your pack member needs healing." "My sister," she whispered before she could stop herself. "Sister." He processed this information. "Then she comes to the Citadel as well." "Ragnar, send wolves to Wolfhaven. Find the Omega's sick sister and bring her here gently. Ensure she has everything needed for comfort during travel." "You can't just—" Lysandra started. "I am king," he interrupted. "I can do exactly that. Your sister will receive the best healing in Valdoris." He stepped closer, and her wolf practically melted. "But we talk first." Alone. Before she could protest, he'd scooped her into his arms. Lysandra gasped at the contact. Electricity shot through her entire body, her wolf howling in delight while her mind reeled in shock. Strangely, the lingering ache from her journey seemed to fade at his touch, as if his presence itself was healing. "Put me down." She struggled, but it was like fighting stone. No. He strode through the citadel doors, ignoring the shocked looks of servants and guards. You'll run again, and my wolf is barely controlled as it is. I won't chase you through my own castle. His scent enveloped her, pine and winter and raw power, and her wolf wanted to burrow into it. She forced herself to stay rigid, to not lean into his warmth. The king's study was massive, dominated by maps and weapons and a fireplace large enough to stand in. He set her down gently but positioned himself between her and the door. Now, he said, pouring amber liquid from a crystal decanter. We discuss terms. Terms? Lysandra's voice cracked. Of our mating. He downed the drink in one swallow. You need protection, healing for your sister, security. I need an heir and a functional wolf. We both know this isn't what either of us would choose, but the mate bond is absolute. Each word was another cut. Lysandra wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly feeling smaller than ever. So I'm a business transaction. You're a necessity, he corrected, though something flickered in his expression. My wolf went dormant when I was young and reckless. The kingdom believes I'm cursed, weak. Other packs circle like vultures, waiting for me to die without an heir so they can claim Valdris. He poured another drink, his hand trembling slightly. Then you appear, an Omega who can't even shift, and my wolf goes insane. Do you know what it's screaming right now? Lysandra shook her head mutely. Claim her. Mark her. Make her ours before another wolf even looks at her. His knuckles whitened around the glass. It wants me to pin you against that wall and... He cut himself off, turning away sharply. Heat flooded Lysandra's face, and at other places she didn't want to acknowledge. Her Omega nature responded to his alpha dominance whether she wanted it or not. But you won't, she said quietly, because you're ashamed of wanting me. I'm ashamed of nothing, he growled, whirling to face her, but I won't force an unwilling mate. Even if my wolf... He stopped, jaw clenching. Even if your wolf what? Even if it's trying to claw its way out of my skin to get to you, he admitted harshly. 30 years of near death, then you appear, and it's like being struck by lightning. Every instinct screams to claim you before you disappear. A knock interrupted them. Selvana entered, carrying a medical bag, her eyes widening at the tension in the room. Your Majesty requested my presence? The Omega's sister needs treatment for lung sickness, Kaluk said without looking away from Lysandra. You'll have unlimited resources. Save her. Of course, Your Majesty. Selvana studied Lysandra with knowing eyes. The girl, Zafira, she's already arriving. Your wolves were quite efficient. And Lady Lysandra, I should examine you as well. That rapid healing of yours is unusual for an Omega. Lysandra stiffened. What rapid healing? Child, I've been watching you for years. Cuts that close in hours, bruises that fade overnight. That's not normal, even for wolves. Selvana's eyes gleamed with interest. There's something special in your blood. Zafira is here? Lysandra interrupted, starting toward the door, desperate to change the subject. Kalux caught her arm. The contact sent sparks through both of them, and his grip immediately gentled. Selvana will see to her first. We're not finished. The healer bowed and left quickly. Alone again, the air grew thick with unspoken tension. I won't share your bed, Lysandra said suddenly, desperately. I won't be that kind of mate. Something dangerous flashed in his pale gaze. You think I'd force you? I think you're an alpha king who takes what he wants. He moved so fast she didn't see it coming, caging her against the bookshelf with his arms, not touching but surrounding her completely. His scent was overwhelming this close, making her wolf drunk with need. "Let me be very clear, little Omega." His voice was rough velvet. "When you come to my bed, and you will, it will be because you're begging for it. Because your wolf is driving you as insane as mine is driving me. Because the mate bond demands completion and fighting it is agony." Lysandra's breath came in short pants. "Never." His laugh was dark. "Never? Your scent says otherwise. I can smell your arousal, taste your want in the air." Mortification flooded her. She ducked under his arm, putting distance between them. "You're wrong." "Am I?" He stalked toward her slowly. "Tell me you don't feel it. The pull, the need. Tell me your wolf isn't crying for mine." She couldn't, because it was true. Every cell in her body wanted to close the distance between them, to bare her throat in submission, to let him claim what the mate bond declared as his. "It doesn't matter what my wolf wants," she said instead. "I'm still human. I still have choice." "Choice?" He laughed bitterly. "You think I chose this? To want someone so desperately it feels like dying? To have my wolf completely feral after decades of control?" He ran his hands through his pale hair, momentarily vulnerable. "You've destroyed everything I built, Omega. My control, my distance, my very sanity." "Then reject me," she shouted. "End this before it goes further." "I can't." His roar shook the windows. His eyes were glowing full gold now, his wolf at the surface. "Don't you understand? 30 years of nothing than you. My wolf would rather die than let you go. It's already started marking you." "What?" Lysandra's hand flew to her neck, but her skin was unmarked. "Not physically, not yet." His voice was strained. "But spiritually, energetically. Other wolves will smell me on you, know you're claimed even without a bite. It's already begun, whether either of us wants it." As if to prove his point, the door opened and a servant entered with refreshments, took one look at Lysandra, and immediately bared their throat in submission. To her. "See?" Kaluk said grimly. "In their eyes, you're already their queen." Before Lysandra could respond, her sister's voice echoed in the hallway, and everything else ceased to matter. Lysandra stared at the servant who remained in submissive posture, waiting for her acknowledgement. She'd never had anyone submit to her. Omegas were always at the bottom, receiving submission from no one. You can go," she managed awkwardly. The servant rose, bowing deeply. "Yes, my queen. I'm not—" But they were already gone. "You'll need to get used to it," Kaluk said, his composure slowly returning though his eyes still held golden flecks. "Like it or not, you're my mate. In their eyes, that makes you the alpha queen of Valdris." "This is insane!" Lysandra sank into a chair, overwhelmed. "This morning I was nobody. Less than nobody. And now you're the most powerful woman in the Northern Territories." He studied her with an unreadable expression. "The irony isn't lost on me." A commotion outside interrupted them. The door burst open and Zafira rushed in, very much alive and breathing clearly for the first time in months. "Lysa!" The 14-year-old threw herself into her sister's arms. "The healer! She did something miraculous! I can breathe. And this castle, there are actual wolves who can turn into people. And they called you queen and—" "Slow down." Lysandra hugged her tightly, tears streaming down her face. Her sister was healthy. After months of watching her fade, Zafira was vibrant again. "Your Majesty." Selvana appeared in the doorway. The young one's lungs were damaged, but not beyond repair. "With proper care and my remedies, she'll make a full recovery." And I must say, her healing response was remarkably quick. almost as unusual as her sister's abilities. Then she'll receive everything needed, Calyx commanded. His harsh features softened almost imperceptibly as he watched the sisters embrace. Thank you, Lysandra whispered, meeting his gaze over Zephyra's head. Thank you for saving her. Something shifted in his expression, there and gone before she could identify it. She's Pack now. We protect our own. Pack? Zephyra pulled back, eyes wide. We're in a pack? But we've been packless since your parents died, Calyx finished. Yes, I know. Ragnar is thorough in his intelligence gathering. He addressed Zephyra directly. You're under the Royal Pack's protection now. Both of you. Because Lysa is your mate? Zephyra asked with teenage directness. Lysandra's face burned. Zephyra dash. Yes, Calyx said simply, though your sister seems reluctant to accept that fact. Zephyra looked between them, far too perceptive for her age. Is it because she's Omega? Our parents always said that shouldn't matter, that the moon goddess doesn't make mistakes. They said our bloodline was special, even if we couldn't prove it. Wise parents, Selvana murmured, studying both sisters with renewed interest. Zephyra, it's complicated, Lysandra started. It's not, Calyx interrupted. Your sister is my mate. That makes her the Alpha Queen, regardless of her designation. Anyone who challenges that challenges me. Will you mark her? Zephyra asked innocently. The other wolves said that's what mates do. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees. Calyx's hands clenched into fists, his control visibly fraying. That's enough questions, Selvana said quickly, recognizing the danger. Young one, let me show you to your chambers. You need rest after your healing. But now, Lysandra said firmly. Zephyra huffed, but allowed herself to be led away. Alone again, the air crackled with tension. She's right, Calyx said roughly. Mates mark each other. My wolf is going insane wanting to sink its teeth into your throat, to show everyone you're mine. But you won't, Lysandra said, though it came out as more of a question. Not without permission. He turned away, staring into the fireplace. Though fighting the instinct may kill me, already my wolf is... He stopped, shoulders tensing. Is what? Rejecting my control. It's never done that before, not in 50 years of life, but near you. He turned back, and his eyes were flickering rapidly between pale blue and gold. I should lock you in the tower for both our safety. Try it, Lysandra bristled. I'll escape. With what strength? You can't even shift. The words were cruel, but his tone held something else. Concern? When did you last transform? Shame flooded her. 2 years? 2 years? He stepped closer, frowning. That's impossible. The wolf spirit needs release, or it... His expression cleared with understanding. Or it goes dormant. Like mine did. I couldn't afford to shift. It takes energy, calories I didn't have. Every time I tried, I'd pass out from exhaustion. His jaw clenched. You were starving. In my own territory, my mate was starving. I wasn't your mate then. The bond was always there, waiting, he said harshly. I should have felt it, should have known. He cut himself off with a growl. Your Majesty. Thaddeus appeared in the doorway, careful not to enter. The council is demanding an audience. News of your situation has spread. Let them wait, Calyx snarled. They're questioning the legitimacy of an Omega Queen. Lords Blackthorn and Silverpaw are particularly vocal. The king's eyes went full gold. They dare? My king, Thaddeus interrupted carefully. Perhaps Lady Lysandra should attend. Let them see her, sent the bond themselves. Absolutely not, Lysandra said. I won't be paraded like my mate? Calyx's voice was dangerous. Like what you are? The words stung. Like a possession. You're not a possession, he said through gritted teeth. But you are mine, as I am yours. The bond. Suddenly pain lanced through Lysandra's chest. She gasped, doubling over as agony spread through her limbs. Her wolf, dormant for so long, was suddenly fighting to surface. What's happening? She gasped. Calyx was beside her instantly, his hands gentle despite his earlier anger. Your wolf. Being near an alpha, your mate's alpha, is awakening it. But you're too weak for a shift. It hurts, she whimpered, hating herself for showing weakness. I know. His voice was surprisingly soft. He pulled her against his chest and the pain immediately lessened. My scent will calm it. Don't fight me. She wanted to protest but couldn't. His presence was like a balm to the agony. Her wolf practically purred at his nearness, even as her human side remained conflicted. More surprisingly, she felt warmth spreading through her. Not just comfort, but actual healing, as if proximity to him was mending something broken inside her. The council, Thaddeus reminded from the doorway. Can burn in hell, Calyx growled, but he stood, lifting Lysandra effortlessly. Send them away. Tell them they'll meet their queen when I decide, not before. That will cause problems. Then let them try something. The king's voice held lethal promise. I haven't had a proper fight in years. My wolf would enjoy the exercise. He carried Lysandra through corridors she was too pain-addled to memorize, finally entering a magnificent chamber dominated by a massive bed. Your room? She managed through gritted teeth. The queen's chamber is connected through that door, he indicated with his head. But you'll stay here tonight where I can monitor your wolf's awakening. That's not appropriate. Neither is letting my mate suffer alone. He set her on the bed, and she had to bite back a moan at how his scent surrounded her from the fabrics. Your wolf is trying to surface after 2 years of dormancy. It could kill you without an alpha's presence to ground it. As if to prove his point, another wave of pain crashed through her. Her back arched, bones trying to break and reshape. Don't fight it, Calyx commanded, his alpha power washing over her. Submit to it. I can't, she gasped. Too weak. Then submit to me, he growled. Let my wolf help yours. Before she could respond, he'd shifted. The massive white wolf jumped onto the bed, curling around her smaller form. The effect was immediate. Her pain decreased to manageable levels, her wolf calming at the alpha's presence. She noticed cuts on her hands from gripping the sheets healing before her eyes, the skin knitting together in moments. She should protest, should maintain boundaries. But exhaustion was pulling her under, and the white wolf's warmth was so comforting. Against her better judgment, she buried her fingers in his thick fur and let sleep take her. Just before unconsciousness claimed her, she heard voices in the hallway, the council members demanding answers, Thaddeus holding them off. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight, wrapped in her mate's protective presence despite everything between them, Lysandra felt safe for the first time in years. Her last thought was dangerous in its simplicity. Maybe being his wouldn't be so bad. Then darkness claimed her, and with it, dreams of frost-touched eyes turning warm just for her. Lysandra woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the absence of warmth beside her. The massive white wolf was gone, but his scent lingered everywhere, on the silk sheets, in the air, on her own skin. She sat up slowly, surprised to find the pain from last night had completely vanished. More than that, she felt stronger than she had in years, as if sleeping beside him had restored something vital within her. "You're awake." Kaluk stood by the window, fully dressed in formal black attire that made his pale hair seem to glow. He didn't turn to look at her. "How long did I sleep?" 14 hours. His voice was carefully neutral. "Your wolf needed the rest." "It's been trying to surface all night." Heat flooded her cheeks as memories returned, crying from pain, clinging to his fur, sleeping curled against a wolf who was essentially a stranger. Worse, she remembered how her body had seemed to heal itself throughout the night, cuts and bruises fading as if they'd never existed. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for staying." "I had no choice." The words were sharp, but she caught something else in his tone. "My wolf wouldn't let me leave. It seems being near you has made it difficult to control." Before she could respond, Thaddeus entered after a brief knock. "Your Majesty, Lady Lysandra, the council is assembled. They're growing impatient." "Let them grow more impatient," Kaluk said coldly. "My king, Lord Blackthorn, has called for an official challenge to the mating claim. He says without a formal mark, Lady Lysandra's position can be contested." Lysandra's blood ran cold. "Contested how?" Thaddeus looked uncomfortable. "Any unmated alpha can challenge for the right to claim you instead. It's an ancient law, rarely invoked, but—" The window Kalux had been standing beside exploded outward, glass shattering from the force of his fist. Lysandra gasped as she saw his hand, bloody, with shards embedded deep, begin to heal immediately, the wounds closing before her eyes, just like hers had been doing. "They dare," he snarled, whirling around. His pale gaze now blazed pure gold, canines extended. "They would try to take what is mine?" "Not if you mark her first," Thaddeus said carefully. "A marked mate cannot be challenged for." "No." Lysandra stood, wrapping the blanket around herself like armor. "I won't be marked to satisfy some political game." "This isn't a game," Kalux growled, his hand now completely healed. "Lord Blackthorn's son is unmated, strong, and has been eyeing the throne for years. If he challenges and wins—" "Wins?" Lysandra interrupted. "You mean fights you? For me? Like I'm a prize?" "That's exactly what it means," Thaddeus confirmed grimly. "Trial by combat. Winner takes the Omega." Rage flooded through Lysandra, hot and unexpected. Her dormant wolf stirred, sharing her fury. "I am not property to be won." "No, you're not," Kalux agreed, his voice dropping dangerously. "You're my mate, and I'll kill anyone who tries to claim otherwise." "There's something else," Thaddeus continued reluctantly. "Lord Blackthorn has been researching old bloodlines. He claims to have information about your heritage, Lady Lysandra. Information that could change everything." "My heritage?" Lysandra frowned. "I'm an orphaned Omega. There's nothing special about my bloodline." Kalux and Thaddeus exchanged a look she couldn't interpret. "We should face them," Kalux said finally, "but you need to be prepared. The council can be brutal." A knock interrupted them. Selvana entered with an elegant dress draped over her arm. "The council awaits." Lady Lysandra should be properly attired for her first appearance. The dress was exquisite, deep midnight blue that would complement her coloring perfectly, with silver embroidery that somehow seemed to shimmer with its own light. It was a queen's dress. "I can't wear that," Lysandra protested. "You can and will," Kalux said firmly. You face them as my equal, not as the Omega they expect to see cowering." 20 minutes later, Lysandra found herself walking through massive doors into the throne room. The dress fit perfectly, and Silvana had worked magic with her hair, braiding it into an elaborate crown that made her look almost regal. The healer had also applied a special oil to her neck that would, she claimed, make the mate bond's spiritual mark more apparent to other wolves. The moment she entered, she felt the weight of dozens of stares. Alphas and betas filled the room, all powerful, all judging. She could smell their disdain, their disbelief that this Omega could be their queen. Kaluk sat on his throne, looking every inch the Alpha King. When she approached, he stood and descended the steps, offering his hand. The gesture was calculated, showing respect while claiming possession. "Lords and ladies of the council," his voice carried absolute authority, "I present Lady Lysandra Nightwhisper, my mate, and your future queen." The silence was deafening. Then Lord Blackthorn stepped forward, a massive alpha with graying hair and cruel eyes. "We refuse to acknowledge an Omega Queen," he stated flatly. "It's an insult to the bloodline, to tradition, to everything Valdris represents." Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the crowd. "Your opinion is noted and dismissed," Kaluk said coldly. "Then I invoke the right of challenge," Blackthorn announced. "My son will fight for the Omega's hand. But first..." He pulled out an ancient scroll. "The council should know exactly what they're fighting for." "What is that?" Kalux demanded. "Records," Blackthorn said with satisfaction. "Hidden records from the archives. The Nightwhisper line isn't just Omega blood. They're descended from something far more interesting." He unrolled the scroll dramatically. 300 years ago, the last silver wolves walked these lands. They were hunted to extinction for their power. Wolves who could heal, who could strengthen others with their presence, whose very existence was considered divine. Lysandra's heart stopped. The Nightwhisper family were the secret keepers of that bloodline. Blackthorn continued. "Hidden among Omegas where no one would think to look. This girl carries the Silver Wolf gene. That's why she heals so quickly. That's why the king's dormant wolf woke. She's not just an Omega. She's the last of the moon-blessed line." The throne room erupted in chaos, wolves shouting, some in disbelief, others in awe. Through it all, Lysandra stood frozen, pieces clicking into place. Her unusual healing, her parents' insistence that their bloodline was special, Silvana's comments about her abilities. "If this is true," someone called out, "then she's not just worthy to be queen, she's sacred. Or she's an abomination." The younger Blackthorn stepped forward, sharing his father's cruel features but with darker hair. "Silver wolves were hunted for a reason. They're unnatural, dangerous. Their power corrupts everything around them." "Enough." Kalux's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "True or not, she is my mate. That alone makes her queen." "Then prove it," the younger Blackthorn taunted. "Accept my challenge. Let's see if the king who couldn't feel for 30 years can defend his claim to a silver-blooded Omega." "I accept," Kaluk said immediately. "No!" Lysandra stepped forward. "I won't be fought over like—" "Then shift," Blackthorn's son interrupted, his amber eyes gleaming maliciously. "If you're truly silver-blooded, prove it. Show us the legendary Silver Wolf. Or are you just another broken Omega who can't even transform?" The crowd fell silent, waiting. Lysandra felt her face burn with humiliation and fear. She hadn't shifted in 2 years. Even if the bloodline was real, she was too weak, too damaged. "She doesn't need to prove anything," Kalux growled. "Yes," Lysandra said suddenly. surprising everyone, including herself. I do. She walked to the center of the throne room, her heart pounding. If the Silver Wolf bloodline was real, if that's why she healed so strangely, then maybe, just maybe, it would answer her call now. Closing her eyes, she reached deep within herself, past the fear and doubt, searching for her wolf. For a moment, nothing happened. Then she felt it, not weak and dormant as it had been, but waiting, coiled like a spring, fed by proximity to her mate, and ready to emerge. The shift hit her like lightning. Pain, yes, but also power. Pure, ancient power that flooded through her veins like liquid moonlight. Her bones broke and reformed, her skin sprouted fur that caught the light like metal, and when she opened her eyes in wolf form, she heard the collective gasp of every wolf in the room. She was silver. Not gray, not white, but pure silver, as if she'd been forged from the moon itself. And her eyes glowed with their own light, silver white like stars. The prophecy, someone whispered, the silver wolf who would wake the frozen king and herald a new age. Mine! Calyx's roar shook the entire castle. He shifted instantly, his massive white form leaping from the throne to stand over her protectively, possessively. But Lysandra wasn't cowering. Her silver wolf stood proud, powerful, every inch a queen despite her smaller size. She could feel it now, the ancient power in her blood, the healing gift that had been dormant, the strength that had been waiting for the right moment to emerge. When she shifted back, Silvana was ready with a cloak. But Lysandra stood tall, unashamed, meeting the stunned gazes of the council with quiet dignity. The challenge stands, the younger Blackthorn said, though his voice shook slightly. Silver blood or not, she remains unmated. I claim the right to fight for her. Then you'll die, Calyx said simply, having shifted back as well. Tonight, under the full moon, and when I'm done with you, no one will ever question her place again. As the council dispersed to prepare for the evening's combat, Lysandra caught Calyx's arm. You saw it, didn't you? She said quietly. When I shifted, you weren't surprised. He met her gaze, and for once, his crystalline eyes held warmth. I suspected the moment you healed so quickly, the moment my wolf recognized you as more than just a mate. You're the miracle I never dared hope for, Lysandra, the silver wolf of legend, hidden in plain sight. I could have been nothing, she whispered, just an omega. You were never just anything, he said fiercely. But now they all know what I've known since I first saw you. You're extraordinary. The challenge would come with nightfall, but for now, standing beside him with her true nature revealed, Lysandra felt the first stirrings of belonging she'd never dared imagine. The arena was ancient, carved into the mountain itself beneath the citadel. By sunset, thousands of wolves had gathered, word of the challenge spreading like wildfire throughout the territories. An Omega who bore the Silver Wolf bloodline. A king whose dormant wolf had awakened after 3 decades. A fight that would determine the kingdom's future. Lysandra stood in the preparation chamber, her hands trembling slightly as Silvana helped her into ceremonial robes. The fabric was ancient, woven with silver thread that seemed to respond to her presence, glowing faintly in the torchlight. You don't have to watch, the healer said gently. Many mates choose to wait elsewhere during challenges. He's fighting for me, Lysandra replied, testing the newfound strength in her limbs. Ever since her shift in the throne room, she felt different. Stronger, more alive, as if claiming her silver wolf had awakened something fundamental within her. The least I can do is witness it. You care for him. It wasn't a question. I barely know him. The heart doesn't always require time, Sylvana said wisely, and your wolves have already chosen. The silver wolf bloodline. It bonds more deeply than normal wolves. Your healing gift. It's already started working on him, hasn't it? Lysandra thought of Calux's hand healing instantly after punching through glass. What do you mean? Silver wolves don't just heal themselves. They strengthen their mates, their pack. You've been sleeping beside him, and his body is already changing, becoming more resilient. It's why the silver wolves were so coveted and so feared. A knock interrupted them. Thaddeus entered, his face grave. Lady Lysandra, there's been a development. Lord Blackthorn has invoked the old way. What's that? A fight to the death. No surrender, no mercy. Only one wolf leaves the arena and... He hesitated. They've brought something. A weapon. Weapons aren't allowed in challenges. This isn't a normal weapon. It's wolfsbane extract, refined and concentrated. They claim it's to level the playing field against a king strengthened by silver wolf magic. Lysandra's blood turned to ice. That's poison. It could kill him. Only if the challenger manages to use it, Thaddeus said carefully. But yes, it's a risk. She was moving before she realized it, running through stone corridors toward the king's preparation chamber. She burst through the door without knocking. Calux stood shirtless, ritualistic marks being painted on his chest by the pack shamans, symbols of strength, victory, and claiming. His pale eyes immediately found hers, and she saw him catalog her distress. You know about the wolfsbane, he said quietly. You can't fight him. Not with poison involved. I've fought poisoned blades before. But she heard the concern beneath his casual tone. Not for me, she said desperately. This is insane. All because you refuse to mark me without permission? Something flashed in his gaze. Heat, hunger, barely controlled want. Would you prefer I took that choice from you? Bit you without consent like the animal they think I am? I'd prefer you didn't die for my honor. He moved toward her, and the shamans wisely retreated. This close, she could feel the bond between them humming with energy, stronger since her shift. His hand rose to cup her face, and she felt that strange warmth flow between them. Her silver wolf magic recognizing its mate. Your honor is worth dying for, he said softly. You are worth dying for. Why? The word came out as a plea. Why do you care so much? You barely know me. Don't I? His thumb traced her cheekbone. I know you spent your last coins to buy medicine for your sister. I know you fast so she can eat. I know you haven't shifted in 2 years because you put her needs before your own wolf's. I know you stood up to me, the Alpha King, without flinching, and faced the entire council with more dignity than most queens born to the role. That's not... I know your favorite scent is lavender because your eyes soften when you pass the gardens. I know you unconsciously lean left to protect your weak right ankle, an old injury that never healed properly until last night. I know you talk in your sleep, calling for parents who died protecting you. Lysandra's breath caught. How could you know that last part? Because I've been watching you sleep for 2 nights now, fighting every instinct that screams to claim you, to complete the bond. His gaze flickered gold. I know you, Lysandra Nightwhisper. Maybe not every detail of your past, but I know your heart. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Calux, if I die tonight, at least I die having known you. Having felt again after 30 years of nothing, that's worth any price. She kissed him. It wasn't planned or thought out. One moment she was crying, the next her lips were pressed against his, desperate and fierce. He froze for a heartbeat, then responded with 30 years of suppressed hunger. His arms came around her, pulling her against him, and she felt the bond between them blaze to life, silver and white fire intertwining. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. His eyes were pure gold, his control hanging by a thread. "Don't die," she commanded, her voice rough. "That's an order from your queen." His smile was wild, dangerous. "Yes, my queen." An hour later, the arena was packed beyond capacity. The full moon hung directly overhead, casting everything in ethereal light. Lysandra stood on the royal platform, Zephyra beside her, surrounded by the royal guard. Below, two wolves entered from opposite sides. The younger Blackthorn had shifted into a dark brown wolf, massive and scarred from previous battles. Around his neck hung a collar of sorts, leather infused with wolfsbane that would release its poison into his claws and teeth during the fight. But it was Calyx who drew every eye. His white wolf form seemed to glow under the moonlight, larger than any wolf had a right to be, moving with lethal grace. She could see the faint shimmer around him, her silver wolf magic's blessing, strengthening him whether she'd meant to give it or not. There was no ceremony, no countdown. Blackthorn attacked immediately, going for the throat with poisoned fangs. Calyx twisted away, but not fast enough. The challenger's claws raked across his flank, and Lysandra saw the wolfsbane's effect immediately. The wounds didn't heal as they should, instead spreading black veins under his white fur. The crowd roared. Lysandra gripped the railing, her newly awakened wolf snarling inside her. Blackthorn pressed his advantage, using the poison strategically, inflicting small wounds that wouldn't heal, weakening the king bit by bit. It was brilliant and cruel. Death by 1,000 cuts. But Calyx was learning, adapting. He stopped trying to heal and started fighting differently, using his superior size and strength to keep Blackthorn at distance. When he finally landed a blow, it was devastating, his jaws closing on the challenger's front leg with a crack that echoed through the arena. Blackthorn howled, limping now, but the wolfsbane collar remained intact. He circled warily, looking for another opening. That's when Lysandra felt it. A pull on her magic, desperate and instinctive. Calyx's wolf was calling to hers, not consciously but through their bond. He was weakening from the poison, his body starting to fail. Without thinking, she responded. Silver light erupted from her hands, invisible to most but blazing to those with magical sight. It flowed across the arena, wrapping around Calyx like armor. The black veins of wolfsbane began to recede, her silver wolf magic burning the poison away. "She's helping him," Lord Blackthorn shouted. "That's interference." "The match is void." "The mate bond allows it." Selvana's voice rang out with authority. "Silver wolf magic has always worked this way. They are one soul in two bodies. To forbid her aid is to forbid him from using his own strength." The crowd fell silent, watching in awe as the king's wounds began to close, the poison neutralized by his mate's power. The younger Blackthorn saw it too, desperation entering his amber eyes. He made one last desperate attack, launching himself at Calyx's throat. But the king was ready. With silver-strengthened power, he caught the challenger mid-leap, jaws closing on his neck, not on the collar, but just below it. There was a moment of perfect stillness. Then Blackthorn went limp. The challenge ended. The arena erupted in chaos. Cheers, shouts, howls of victory. But Lysandra was already running, shifting to her silver wolf form mid-leap as she vaulted from the platform to the arena floor. She reached Calyx just as he collapsed, the wolfsbane's cumulative effect finally overwhelming him. Her silver wolf pressed against his white one, and she poured every ounce of her healing magic into him, not caring who saw, not caring about anything but saving him. "Please," she begged through the bond, "don't leave me." His eyes opened, meeting hers, pale blue with gold flecks, warm and alive. "Never," came his response through their connection. "But mark me, complete the bond, let me be yours as you are mine." She didn't hesitate. Still in wolf form, she bit down on his neck, claiming him before thousands of witnesses. The moment her teeth broke skin, power exploded between them, silver and white light that made the full moon itself seem dim. When the light faded, both had shifted back to human form. Calyx pulled her against him, uncaring of their audience, and returned the mark, his teeth sinking into the junction of her neck and shoulder. The completed bond was like coming home. She could feel everything: his thoughts, his emotions, his absolute devotion. And he could feel hers, including the love she'd been trying to deny since the moment he'd saved Zephyra. "My queen," he murmured against her skin, "my silver wolf, my salvation." "My king," she replied, holding him just as tightly. "My mate, my choice." Lord Blackthorn approached, his face carved from stone. His son's body lay cooling in the arena sand, but he dropped to one knee, bowing his head. "I acknowledge the bond," he said formally. "The Silver Wolf has chosen, and the king has proven his claim. Long live the queen! Long live the queen!" The crowd took up the chant, thousands of voices united in acceptance of what they'd witnessed, not just a mating, but the return of something legendary. As Calyx helped her stand, as the crowd continued to cheer, Lysandra felt something shift in the air. Far to the east, she sensed a darkness stirring, as if her awakening had triggered something ancient and hostile. But that was tomorrow's concern. Tonight, she was marked, mated, and crowned in the eyes of all who mattered. The Omega who couldn't shift had become the Silver Queen. And beside her stood the king whose frozen heart she'd thawed, whose dormant wolf she'd awakened, whose soul was now permanently entwined with hers. Together, they faced their people, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. 6 weeks after the challenge, Lysandra stood on the Citadel's highest balcony, watching the sunrise paint the mountains gold. Her neck still tingled where Calyx's mark rested, a permanent reminder of their bond. Through their connection, she could feel him approaching before she heard his footsteps. "You're up early," he said, wrapping his arms around her waist from behind. Through their bond, she felt his contentment, his wolf's satisfaction at her proximity. "Couldn't sleep," she admitted, leaning back against his chest. "I keep having dreams. Visions of shadows in the east, wolves made of darkness." His arms tightened around her. "The council received disturbing reports yesterday. Several eastern packs have gone silent. No communication for weeks." "Related to my awakening?" "Possibly." He pressed his lips to her mark, sending shivers through her. "Selvana thinks your emergence as a silver wolf has awakened other ancient powers. Some helpful, others not." Before she could respond, Thaddeus appeared in the doorway, bowing deeply. "Your Majesties, forgive the interruption, but we have visitors. Wolves from across the territories, all claiming to have felt the Queen's awakening." They descended to the throne room to find it packed with unfamiliar faces. Some wore the refined clothing of nobility, others the rough leathers of frontier packs, but all shared one striking feature: eyes touched with silver, some more than others. An elderly woman stepped forward, her eyes fully silver like Lysandra's. "Your Majesty," she addressed Lysandra directly, ignoring protocol that dictated addressing the king first. I am Minerva Moonstrider, keeper of the hidden bloodlines. We have waited 3 centuries for your awakening. Hidden bloodlines? Lysandra asked, taking her place on the queen's throne that had been installed beside Calyx's. When the silver wolves were hunted to near extinction, some survived by hiding among regular wolves, suppressing their gifts, mating strategically to preserve the bloodline while avoiding detection. Minerva gestured to the assembled wolves. We are their descendants. Diluted, yes, but when you claimed your full silver wolf form, every drop of silver blood in the territories felt it. How many? Calyx asked, his tactical mind already working. 47 have answered the call so far, Minerva replied. More arrive daily. Most can't achieve full silver wolf form like the queen, but we carry gifts, healing, foresight, the ability to strengthen others. A younger man stepped forward, barely out of his teens. Your Majesty, I'm Jasper Moonwhisper, no relation to your line, despite the similar name, he added quickly. I've been having visions since you shifted. Dark wolves rising from cursed ground, led by something ancient. They're coming for you specifically. Lysandra felt Calyx tense beside her. How long do we have? Days at most, Jasper replied, his silver-touched eyes going distant. They move like shadows, corrupting everything they touch. Then we prepare, Lysandra said, standing. All silver-blooded wolves are welcome here. We'll train together, strengthen our gifts, and face this threat as one pack. Over the following days, the citadel transformed into a training ground. Lysandra worked with each silver blood, helping them unlock dormant abilities. She discovered her own gifts went far beyond healing. She could strengthen entire groups of wolves simultaneously, could sense threats from great distances, could even purify corrupted land with her touch. Calyx watched from the training ground's edge as she worked with a young girl struggling to shift. You're fighting yourself, Lysandra said gently. The silver wolf isn't separate from you. It is you, just in a different form. The girl closed her eyes and suddenly silver light erupted around her. When it faded, a small silver wolf stood where she had been, yipping with joy. Magnificent, Calyx murmured through their bond. She just needed encouragement. Lysandra replied the same way, warmth flooding through her at his praise. That night, as they lay intertwined in their shared chambers, Calyx traced patterns on her bare shoulder. The eastern packs have definitely gone dark, he said quietly. Ragnar's scouts report a spreading corruption. Wolves turn to shadow beasts. The ancient enemy Minerva spoke of, Lysandra said. The reason silver wolves were originally created, to fight the Shadow King. You think he's returned? I think something has. She turned in his arms to face him. My awakening didn't just revive the silver bloodline, it woke whatever has been sleeping in the east. His hand cupped her face. Then we face it together. The silver wolves and the crown united. Together, she agreed, kissing him deeply. Their moment was shattered by alarm bells ringing throughout the citadel. They dressed quickly, racing to the walls where Thaddeus waited with the guard. Your Majesties, he pointed toward the eastern road. Refugees. Through the darkness came wolves, hundreds of them, running in blind panic. Behind them, Lysandra saw something that made her blood freeze. Shadows that moved independently of any light source, flowing across the ground like living oil, consuming everything they touched. Open the gates, she commanded. Get everyone inside. The refugees poured through, many collapsing from exhaustion. Among them, Lysandra recognized the Alpha of the Eastern March, a proud wolf brought to his knees. Your Majesty, he gasped. The shadows came 3 nights ago. Anyone they touch becomes changed. Not dead, but not alive. They serve something calling itself the Void King. The Shadow King's true name, Minerva said, having appeared beside them. He who existed before the first wolves, who seeks to return the world to primordial darkness. How do we fight shadows? Calyx demanded. With light, Lysandra said, understanding flooding through her. That's why silver wolves were created. We're not just healers, we're living moonlight, the natural enemy of shadow. She stepped onto the wall's edge, looking out at the approaching darkness. Without hesitation, she shifted to her silver wolf form and howled, a sound that carried power, defiance, and challenge. Every silver blood in the citadel answered, their combined howls creating a harmony that made the very air shimmer. The approaching shadows actually recoiled, pulling back from the citadel walls. But in that darkness, something stirred. Eyes opened. Not two, but thousands, all focused on Lysandra with ancient hatred. Silver Wolf! A voice like grinding stone echoed across the distance. You should have stayed hidden. Now you'll watch your world consumed by darkness, starting with your mate. Dark tendrils shot toward Calyx faster than sight. Lysandra moved on instinct, leaping between them, her silver light flaring into a shield. The shadows struck and dissolved, but the force sent her tumbling. Calyx caught her, his own eyes blazing gold. Enough defense, he snarled. We take the fight to them. Not yet, Lysandra said, shifting back to human form. We're not ready. But I know how to buy time. She called the Silverbloods to the walls, instructing them to form a circle. Channel your light through me, she commanded. Trust me. They joined hands and Lysandra felt their combined power flow into her. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, more energy than any single wolf was meant to contain. But she held it, shaped it, and released it in a pulse of pure silver light that expanded outward like a dome. The shadows struck the barrier and shrieked, pulling back to beyond its edge. The citadel was protected, for now. Lysandra collapsed, caught immediately by Calyx. The barrier will hold for 3 days, maybe 4, she gasped. We need to gather all the packs, train the Silverbloods properly, and figure out how to fight something made of living darkness. You did it, he said, wonder in his voice. You actually pushed back the Void King. Temporarily, she corrected. He's ancient, powerful, and very angry. This was just the first test. Over the next 2 days, wolves arrived from every territory. The threat of the Void King had united packs that had been enemies for generations. Lords who had questioned Lysandra's right to be queen now begged for her protection. She worked tirelessly, training Silverbloods, strengthening the barrier, researching ancient texts with Minerva for any weakness the Void King might have. Here, Minerva said on the second evening, pointing to a passage in an ancient tome. The Void King was defeated once before, sealed away by 13 silver wolves who gave their lives to create a prison of eternal light. 13, Lysandra murmured. We have 40, 7 Silverbloods, but only a handful can achieve full form. You're stronger than the ancient silver wolves? Minerva said. Your bloodline is pure, enhanced by your mate bond with an Alpha King. You might not need to sacrifice anyone if you can find another way. On the third night, as the barrier flickered and weakened, Lysandra stood with Calyx on their balcony, looking out at the darkness pressing against her silver dome. I won't let you sacrifice yourself, he said quietly, knowing her thoughts through their bond. And I won't let our people die, she replied. There has to be another way. What if there is? Zephyra's voice startled them both. The young girl stood in the doorway, her eyes showing the faintest touch of silver. What if the answer isn't sacrifice but unity? What do you mean? Lysandra asked, pulling her sister close. The ancient texts say 13 silver wolves died separately to create the prison, Zephyra explained, showing them a different tome she'd been studying. But what if they didn't need to die? What if they just needed to combine their power, like you did to create the barrier? Lysandra's eyes widened. Not 13 deaths, but 13 silver wolves channeling together. With you as the focal point, Kalux added, understanding dawning. And with the mate bond amplifying your power. We could create something stronger than the ancient prison, Lysandra finished. Not just contain the Void King, but destroy him entirely. Dawn broke on the 4th day with the barrier failing. Shadows pressed against the weakening silver light, and in their depths, the Void King took physical form, a massive wolf-shaped creature of pure darkness, with those 1,000 eyes all focused on the citadel. Silver Queen! His voice boomed across the battlefield. Your light dims. Your protection fails. Surrender, and I'll make your transformation to shadow quick. Never, Lysandra called back, her voice carrying to every defender on the walls. You want to return the world to darkness? You'll have to go through all of us first. She turned to the assembled Silver Bloods. 13 volunteers. I need the strongest among you to channel with me. This will be dangerous. Every single Silver Blood stepped forward. Tears pricked her eyes. I can only take 13 for the ritual, but all of you, every one of you will be needed to hold the line while we work. Minerva selected the 12 strongest, those who could shift to partial silver form. They formed a circle in the courtyard with Lysandra at its center, while the remaining Silver Bloods and the regular wolf warriors prepared to defend the walls. Whatever happens, Lysandra told Kalux, know that I love you. And I love you, he replied, kissing her fiercely. Now save our kingdom, my queen. The shadows broke through the failed barrier like a black tide. Wolf warriors met them head-on, led by Kalux in his massive white form. The battle was brutal. Shadows against fang and claw, darkness trying to corrupt everything it touched. In the courtyard, Lysandra and the 13 began their ritual. They shifted to wolf form, 12 partial silver wolves surrounding one pure silver queen. Power flowed between them, building with each breath, each heartbeat synchronized. Through her bond with Kalux, Lysandra felt him fighting, felt his determination and love strengthening her. She pulled on that bond, using it to amplify the silver light growing within their circle. Now, she howled, and 13 voices joined as one. Silver light exploded upward in a pillar that pierced the clouds. It spread outward in waves, each pulse destroying shadows, purifying corrupted wolves, pushing back the darkness. The Void King roared in rage and pain, his form beginning to destabilize. Impossible! I am eternal. I am... You are nothing, Lysandra declared, her voice echoing with the power of 13 silver wolves, amplified by the mate bond, strengthened by the love of her pack. You are the absence of light, and we are the moon's children. Be gone. The final pulse of silver light was so bright it turned night to day. It struck the Void King directly, and he screamed as his form unraveled, those 1,000 eyes closing one by one until nothing remained but wisps of shadow that dissolved in the silver radiance. Across the battlefield, corrupted wolves were freed, shadows evaporated, and the eastern darkness that had threatened to consume everything was gone. Lysandra collapsed, the other Silver Bloods catching her as she fell. But she was smiling, because through her bond, she could feel Kalux racing toward her, alive and victorious. He shifted mid-leap, catching her in human form and pulling her against him. You did it. He breathed against her hair. You saved everyone. We did it, she corrected, looking at all the Silver Bloods, the wolf warriors, her sister, her pack. All of us together. The Omega who couldn't shift, Zephyra said with a grin, became the queen who saved the realm. The Alpha King who couldn't feel, Lysandra added, touching Calyx's face tenderly, became the king who led with love. As the sun rose fully, painting the citadel in gold, wolves from every territory howled in celebration. The Void King was destroyed, the shadows were gone, and the silver wolves had returned to protect the realm. Later, in their private chambers, Calyx held Lysandra close. "No regrets?" he asked softly. "How could I regret this?" She gestured to the window where wolves celebrated below. 6 weeks ago, I was starving in an alley. Now I'm queen, mated to a king who loves me, surrounded by family I never knew I had, and we just saved the world." He laughed, the sound rich and warm. "When you put it like that, it does sound rather remarkable." "The moon goddess knew what she was doing," Lysandra said, tracing his mark on her neck. "Pairing the strongest alpha with an omega who carried the silver wolf bloodline. You needed someone to wake your dormant wolf. And you needed someone to help you discover your true strength," he finished. "Perfect matches aren't about conventional power. They're about two souls that complete each other." "The cold Alpha King who never wanted a mate," she teased gently. "Until a poor, rejected Omega made his wolf go wild," he completed, pulling her in for a kiss that still, even after everything, made her wolf sing with joy. Outside, the celebrations continued. The Silver Wolves would remain, protectors of the realm, led by their queen who had risen from nothing to become legend. The Omega, who everyone dismissed, had become the most powerful queen in Valdris history. But inside their chambers, they were simply Lysandra and Calyx, two souls who had found each other against all odds, whose love had literally saved the world. And somewhere, in the realm beyond, the moon goddess smiled. Her plan, centuries in the making, had finally come to fruition. The silver wolves were restored, the ancient evil was defeated, and love had conquered all. The end.